It's time to huddle up at the Weekly Huddle podcast because draft season doesn't stop, and neither do we. It's Newt Westen here, joining you again for another episode in our summer scouting series. Today, we have a really exciting episode where we're looking at the running back class that is draft eligible for the 2026 NFL Draft. We're going to run through the top 10 running backs that I have ranked. I actually got a chance to look at 11. With that, my 6 through 10 is where I see the guys that I have had the opportunity to look at. As I add more to the list, those guys could shuffle around. When you get into the top 5, it becomes a little bit more solidified for me, but there's always opportunity for any of those spots to move around throughout the summer as I start adding more guys to that list. I do want to give a quick shout out because I watched 11. Not making the top 10 was Le'Veon Moss out of Texas A&M. He is a player that has been there for 3 years. He had his 2024 campaign cut short after Week 10 versus South Carolina. He's a guy that has had a ton of accolades. He was the Texas A&M offensive MVP in 2023. He was a newcomer of the year in 22 for Texas A&M, and I'm sure someone that they're really excited to get back. So he did not make the list, but definitely someone that I think has an opportunity to be a really fun player to watch in this upcoming season. But starting off with number 10, we have Jaheim White. Jaheim White is probably the most unique player on this list because of his size. He comes in at 5 feet and 7 inches, 195 pounds is what West Virginia has him listed at, where he's played for 2 years. He's got about a year and some change of starting experience. If you were to tell him he's a small player, he probably wouldn't believe you because he doesn't play that way. He plays extremely tough, bigger than his size would imply. He has really, really good long speed, and really a lot of the things that he brings to his game are going to be built off of the fact that I'm sure as a smaller back, he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he does have a really, really good athletic profile that he pairs with that. He's a willing blocker in that sense, willing to do the dirty work. Kind of another thing that I love about him and that mentality that he brings to the game. And he's a very patient runner. So one of the things with him, he will find his hole. He'll hit that hole. And obviously with his long speed has the opportunity, if he can break it to the second level, to kind of crack off some really, really nice runs. With him, the build as I listed off, both of those are the bottom 10th percentile. And while I love a guy with his mentality, those are physical limitations and physical hurdles that he is going to have to overcome. So something that is going to definitely be an element that probably follows him throughout his career, and definitely the 2026 NFL draft cycle. In pass pro, he's a willing blocker, but he's 5'7", 195 pounds. There's only so much you can do, and I love the mentality that he has. But once again, just the physical limitations are going to come with that. And then finally, when I look at him, he's the type of player where I would expect him to have some really, really good short area quickness, and he doesn't bring that. And to me, I don't want to say frustrating, but it's a little puzzling because I would expect him, with his athletic profile and the other elements that he has to his game, especially the mindset, to really hit a hole and just accelerate through it like he's being launched, and he doesn't. So something with him that I think he could definitely, if it is a mentality thing where he's not wanting to, burst through there and stay light on his feet, or he just doesn't have that gear. Something I'm hoping we get a chance to see here coming up. One thing worth noting, he did have a off-season surgery earlier in 2025. I believe it was on a hamstring, something that hopefully will not follow him into the season. It said that he should be cleared. He did miss spring football because of it, but every report I've seen since then has said that he should be ready to go when the season starts. Coming in at number 8 is Jaden Ott, who is possibly the most polarizing player on this list because of the 3 seasons he has spent at Cal and the difference between the first two and his final season. In his freshman and sophomore campaign, he was arguably one of the best running backs in the nation, posting extremely high marks, great PFF grades, was just overall kind of everything you wanted from a running back. He was talked about last year as far as summer scouting as a potential draftable player in the 2025 cycle. And then 2024 came, and it for whatever reason, it didn't click. Whether it was Cal taking a step back in terms of their offensive line play, or just some elements of his game that he kind of struggled to continue to build upon and grow from. So a couple things that he does bring that I really do like: he has home run speed. He's able to pick up yards in chunks. He looks like a sprinter to me when he's out there. He can run high-waisted at times, something that might be a detriment to him. But once he gets out in open space, is able to gobble up yards very, very quickly. His frame and build for the position is very good when he's coming in at 6 foot, 210 pounds. I'm not going to call him lean, but he's definitely one that has a profile that's built a little bit more for speed and agility. With that, he doesn't bring that part of his game, however. He had a .1 missed tackles forced per attempt last year in 2024, which is really, really not a good number at all. It's basically saying that for every attempt as a runner he forced one missed tackle in every 10 attempts, or forced a missed tackle every or 10% of the time. It's something from him where, if you're going to elevate yourself as a runner, you have to be able to be a little more creative and a runner that can do more than with what you're given. And that was kind of what 2024 boiled down to for him was, what does the Cal line give him? He will take advantage of that. If he can get out in space, he can be a dangerous runner, especially with that home run speed. But there are just some elements that kind of pulled him back, especially his lack of creativity. He was great with the ball. He's had 4 fumbles over his first 3 seasons, 0 in 2024. So kind of the one thing that did stick out with him really, really well was he was able to do a great job of protecting the ball. But once again, a player that, for as good as he was in 2023, I think there were some elements that exposed him in that running style of his. There's a moment in the USC game in 2023 where he got out in space on a sweep play. I want to say that they were in field goal range, was faced with about 3 USC defenders, and backed himself up about 10 yards before the tackle was made. Really took him out of field goal range. It's just something where his elusiveness and his style of running, I want to see it be elevating, and it isn't. So kind of where he is and how he approaches the game this upcoming season, I think will be very interesting. He did transfer to Oklahoma for this upcoming year, so he'll be spending his senior season there. Hopefully for him, a change of scenery will give him the opportunity to kind of get back to that early form of his, because as I said, he was phenomenal early on. 2022 freshman All-American, 2023 first team All Pac-12. Just like what you want to see. And kind of a disappointing season for him last year. I think that there is still that good runner somewhere. Hopefully Oklahoma can unlock that. He can get back to that early form of his. Coming in at number 8 is Justice Haynes. Justice Haynes, I think, is another player that is going to benefit from a change of scenery. He was at Alabama for 2 years, and now this upcoming year he'll be transferring to Michigan. With Haynes, he's a highly touted recruit, 4-star recruit. He's in the Bama running room which obviously, if you're a running back for Alabama, there are some high praises that just come with that title alone. Not saying that they're not deserved for him or he hasn't worked for them. Obviously, to get to that point, he had to. But he has gotten there. He's an Alabama running back, and obviously now becoming a Michigan running back. Still, that level of accolade that goes with that. You got a good frame for the position, 5'10" to 5'11". I'm sorry, 210. But just something never seemed to click with him at Alabama, and I don't know if he is just a player that doesn't have kind of that extra gear. There was a lot of things where I have written down he has average burst, nothing that stands out to me. His vision is mediocre. He actually ended up this year starting as a starting running back, and then I don't want to say losing it. He didn't do anything wrong per se, but once again, he wasn't necessarily elevating, and he ended up becoming the kind of B running back in their system. With that, I think that there's a lot of things that are playing against him. With that, it's a first year in a new system, number one, with Saban, kind of now moving on. So he's gone through two different head coaches. Granted, he'll be in his third now at Michigan. But with that, additionally, he played in an offense with Jalen Milroe. And while obviously Milroe's athleticism is a huge benefacting piece of that offense, it can cause maybe some issues if you are looking to be a running back and kind of run in a more traditional type system. I think him getting away from that ultimately is going to be a good thing. I think he got limited snaps and maybe never was able to kind of get his game flowing. And with the offense being built so heavily around Milroe, I wonder if he was more of an afterthought than anything else. Some things that he does bring that are really good is he's got great contact balance. He absorbs hits really well. I've seen him get out into space and shrug off defenders that are trying to come at him with arm tackles. He looks to finish every run. He's got a great mentality, and he has some really good long speed when he gets out into space. It's just there's a lot of things that prevented him from getting to that opportunity in the Alabama system and with the snaps he had last year that knocked him down my list, and once again just showed me a player that is okay, but still has some work to do. And I think that's a fairly good summary of all three of these players at the bottom of the list. Jaheim White kind of playing above his weight class, and then Ott and Haynes looking for a change of scenery to kind of refresh their draft stock. They're all three players that I think really are going to look to improve kind of where they are in terms of the consensus due to the elements that talked about right there. Coming in at number 7 is kind of a player that sits in a class of his own, Kaytron Allen. Probably one of my favorite players, just due to his nickname, Fat Man. Comes in at 5'11", 229 pounds. So by no means is he, overweight or anything to that effect, but he's a dense player. With that, he brings some really, really good play strength. He's got a finisher mentality, as a lot of these guys fortunately do. I love that from a player where, you're willing to put the helmet down and just knock a guy. And see if you can get that extra 1, 2, 3 yards at the end of a run. His contact balance is really, really good. The obviously dense frame that he has helps out with that. And he's also a really reliable ball carrier. He's had only 4 fumbles over 558. I shouldn't say over. With 558 attempts over his 3-year career at Penn State. One thing that I really like also about Kaytron Allen is he has been Robin since he walked on campus at Penn State, because he got there at the same time that Nicholas Singleton got there. Nicholas Singleton has, for the majority and effectiveness of his career, been the starting running back at Penn State. Kaytron Allen has been the, not backup, but the second back and the running back by committee. And for him to stay there over the course of now his fourth year is a testament to his commitment to the program, his value that he puts on, personal relationships and commitments rather than, a selfish nature. And for a guy like him, I think that he could go and be the big dog at about 95% of campuses out there. And hats off for sticking with where you are and staying in the system that you are, because I think it says a lot to him. Look at a couple negatives for him. He doesn't have a ton of burst or explosiveness as a runner. He's winning off of that dense frame and that bruising running style. His pass pro is okay. Nothing that he really brings to the table that's going to be overly unique. Same thing's going to be true with his receiving. Probably not a player that you necessarily want as a third down back. And if he was in a committee, which ultimately I probably see him some kind of role like that in the NFL level, he'll probably be your first, second down back and pair with a guy that's a little bit more of a third down specialist. Up next, rounding out the back half of the top 10 is going to be his teammate, Nicholas Singleton. And this is where, once again, if I'm kind of tiering these guys and pairing them in different places, while Singleton comes in at 6 compared to Allen's 7, there is a fair gap between the two of them. Probably as big as the gap between Allen and Haynes. Allen's just kind of sitting there right in the middle of that. I would say Singleton is a lot closer to even 3, 4, 5 than he is, maybe even 7, or at least 7, 8, 9. The guys that are kind of sitting in that mid or upper third maybe range are all really close together and do a lot of really unique things. And I think Singleton is kind of a prime example of that. He's a phenomenal receiving back and a player that does a lot of different things for Penn State because of his ability to work well in space. He's done kick return for Penn State. He has a ton of experience with that and has shown a high level of ability to do that. He once again has another excellent frame for the position, very dense build, not to the level of Allen, but he's 6 feet, 227 pounds. So someone that has a little bit of that extra meat on his bones, but he's able to move well in space, better than Allen, I would say for sure. I'm not going to call him the poster child for an elusive finesse back. He does probably bring a middling game in that regard. I'd love for him to be a little bit more elusive. One of the things, once again, I point to is that missed tackles force. 0.19 from him, it's okay. Kaytron Allen was even a little bit better at 0.21. It's a very average mark and nothing that really screams and warrants a ton of excitement. So there is something where he's out in space or he has the opportunity to kind of showcase that skill set, and he does an okay job of it, but it's nothing that I'm really looking at from the lens of, oh man, this guy really has to be elevated. It's okay. It's maybe probably above average, but not noteworthy, I would say. But once again, in kind of, I think it's a tribute to this Penn State system and how they run. He's a tough player. He's a hard-nosed running back. He's a guy that is going to commit and really run through every rep that he has from start to finish extremely well. So 6 through 10 there. Like I said, Singleton kind of pairs a little bit closer to my top group. As we start to get into that, one thing, remind you of, if you are enjoying this, I encourage you to hit that like button. And then also, please consider subscribing. The channel that Owen has here for the Weekly Huddle is phenomenal. He's coming out with content, not just the summer scouting series, but a variety of things from his scouting perspective, some football quiz bowls, amongst other things. So please, like, subscribe if you are enjoying what you are listening to. But as we get back to it, we hit the top 5. Mekhi Hughes, does come in at number 5. Tulane running back for the first 3 years of his career. First year did not play due to an injury, so he redshirted that year. He was the starter for the following 2 years, so coming into his redshirt junior season. He has been phenomenal in Tulane, and obviously there are elements that go to it. He's playing in the AAC, but 2023, 2024, first team All AAC, 2023 AAC Rookie of the Year. So he answered the call, did what he needed to do. He'll be transferring to, or he has, I guess, transferred to Oregon this upcoming season. I think that'll be a really good move for him to showcase what he can do and put him in a little bit larger of a light. To me, the biggest thing is going to be his running style is, and I keep it going back to the word electric for him. He has very quick feet. It almost looks like if you were to take a video of him, turn that video up to like 1.5 times speed. That's what it looks like with his legs moving. He plays so fast, so quick. He has great burst because of that. It also translates into some really good long speed. He pairs that very well with contact balance, an element of his game where sometimes you see a guy that is maybe a little bit more of that speed and that short area agility guy, and they don't have the contact balance, but Hughes definitely has that. Finally, like for him, like if I'm looking at the pluses, 520 attempts he has had in college. He has never fumbled on any of those attempts. That is something that when you're looking at the half century mark and you haven't coughed the ball up once, it stands out. It's an incredibly impressive stat to point to. Hopefully he can continue that as he moves to Oregon this upcoming season. For him, as I look, his vision is mediocre. There were times where I would like him to look more for a cutback. I think he was able to win off athleticism, maybe more than vision and some of the technical aspects of the game. I think it's something that'll be challenged a little bit this year at Oregon. I think that he does not do a ton to invigorate a coach on third down. He's okay in pass pro, in pass catching. I think he's a guy that needs to have a partner, be in a running back by committee as well, where he's not a liability, but you're not necessarily funneling your offense through him on third down. And one other thing I did notice, with him playing in the AAC, when he got an opportunity to play against Power 4 opponents, Florida was one game I saw, his production dipped, and it was kind of noticeable. You go from 100-yard games to, I want to say it was like a 36 or like a sub 40-yard game. So something that definitely stood out to me. Following him up, another player that will now see him kind of a little bit in that rivalry sense. You take a look at Jonah Coleman at Washington. So Jonah Coleman started his career at Arizona, followed his coach Fish to Washington when he took the reins there in 2024. He has been, really since his time started in college, one of the just purest runners as far as like an old school, I'm going to pound this, right down your face, and you are going to regret having to go against me for 30 carries a game. He's coming in at 5'9", a little bit shorter, obviously, with that. 229 pounds, though. So, once again, Katron Allen, fat man, is 5'11", 229. Jonah Coleman is 5'9", 229. He has a dense, full frame to him. And, man, does he make it known to defenders. He's an extremely efficient runner. Very quick, small movements. He's not going to be a big jump cut guy. He's looking to stay kind of on his path, on his trajectory to maximize that momentum that he gets. But he knows how to make those adjustments. He's a really smart runner in that regard. His vision between the tackles is phenomenal. He is not a player that is looking to bounce it outside. He will if that's where the opening is, but he wants to run behind his line, and he wants to take advantage of those blockers, and he does then a really good job of finding, once he's gotten to the point that they've exhausted their ability to block. Hey, where can I go now to showcase my ability? And I absolutely love that for him. Another player with a spotless record with fumbles, 400, almost 400 collegiate attempts, 0 fumbles there. And as I said, it just his makeup, his build is just something that I think is really going to wear down opposing defenses, especially if he's able to deliver that intensity down in and down out. I do want to see him a little bit better with pass pro. There were times that one in particular, I can remember him getting just walked back by a linebacker. Something that you don't want to see, especially from a guy with a build like that. At least redirecting and keeping a clean pocket for a quarterback to step up into. And with his build, with his play style, he doesn't have that top end speed. There are multiple times where he breaks past the defense and he gets caught from behind. You're going to see him with those 30, 40, 50-yard runs, but probably never with those 70, 80-yard touchdown runs. It's just unfortunately not his game. But, man, the things that he does well, he really does well. He's probably the first guy that I'm going to put down 2026 cycle as a my guy, Jonah Coleman. So definitely a fun player to watch. If you haven't checked him out, please do, because everything about his game, he delivers in an extremely meaningful way, and definitely makes his presence known amongst opposing defenses. Coming in number 3 is actually the last player I watched, one that I was just going to go with my top 10, and I was kind of going through other rankings or watch lists, and name kept popping up, and I'm like, okay, I can't not. So I'm glad I did, because he's all the way at number 3 for me, and that is Darius Taylor out of Minnesota. He has spent 2 years there. He'll be coming up in his 3rd year, his true junior season with them. One note to make about him is that he has struggled, I guess, a little bit with injury. He missed 7 games during his freshman campaign with a hamstring injury, and then he missed the opener of 2024 with a leg injury. So when those multiple injuries start to pile up, I always, mark down a note of that. It's not a major medical, but it is something to keep an eye on, especially if he is sidelined this year and misses any time. But why I have him at number 3 and what makes him such a phenomenal runner is going to be his patience and his understanding for the game. He understands what his blockers are doing, where they're going, where the hole is going to be, where it will open up, when it'll open up, just at such a high level that he is able to maximize all of his athletic and his potential as a ball carrier. He's a punishing runner as well. Another guy that is willing to lower his shoulder and punch in the face, 6 feet, 215. Maybe not the mass of some of those other big hitters with Allen and Coleman, but definitely a guy that will make his presence known. And he's a plus receiving back. I talked about Singleton being a stellar 3rd down back. He had 52 targets this last season. Darius Taylor had 62, eclipsed him by almost 20%. He's definitely a guy that Minnesota leaned on a fair amount, but rightfully so. He was able to do really impressive things with the ball in his hand. He had 1.42 yards per route run, which as a running back is a really, really good mark. Singleton's the only one that was higher than that is on this list. And it shows how effective that he can be. With him, he is, with his running style, he's more bruising than shifty. He doesn't give you that high missed tackles force percentage. He comes in at 0.23, a number I'm comfortable with. Like he's not by any means, not creating, but he's not, someone that I'm showcasing off of. Like, look at this guy, look what he can do, how he can really make defenders miss. He does have also this, it's a very weird false step. When he's lined up, he takes like a step backwards and then he takes the ball. And it's something that I think if you take a look at it, how an NFL coach would approach it, they would, in my opinion, say, wasted movement is a negative, and we want to avoid it at all costs. I'm guessing it's a timing mechanism for him, and it's a way that he's been able to, within flex system, figure it out for him. But it doesn't allow him to, start moving and maximize that time when the ball is snapped to when he gets it to building that forward momentum. So that false step, I don't love. It's a technical thing. It's something that can obviously be coached out, but I would absolutely love to see him, adjust and change that a little bit. So he comes in at number 3, and this is kind of like, once again, I'm tiering this 3 through 6. Those guys are all very, very close in my rankings. Singleton, Hughes, and Coleman all come in within about a tenth of a point of one another, and then Taylor about 20th within them. So really, really, really tight together. Number 2 definitely elevates themselves, and I think this is a guy that I might be higher on than consensus. I know I am higher than consensus. I know a lot of teams don't even have him just because of the lack of college ball, and they don't think he's coming out, but he is draft eligible. He's a player that, man, watching his film, I really, really was drawn to, and that is CJ Baxter out of Texas. So CJ Baxter's background is he was a 5-star recruit that started as a freshman for Texas. He did suffer a smaller injury there, which opened up the door eventually for Jonathan Brooks to become the starter once Baxter came back. They rode the hot hand, and they left Brooks as the starter. Baxter was there in like a running back 2 type role. Brooks tears his ACL. Baxter resumes starting duties and does a phenomenal job of it. 2024 comes around. He has an LCL, PCL injury, and he is out for the season. So he did not take one snap last year. He lost his entire 2024 campaign, so he's coming in as a redshirt sophomore. A lot of that leads people to, I would say, not rank him in this class because he has 1 year of college ball under his belt. And that's fair and rightfully so, but I think if he even replicates what he did his freshman year, there's going to be a lot of buzz about this guy coming out. He is an extremely fluid mover. One thing that I love about him was his ability in space, in stride, to manipulate and change his direction and not lose a step and not lose his pace. He gears down, gears up extremely efficiently, and once he hits that second level, he can really be a nightmare for safeties and defensive backs to tackle because he is so shifty, not in a jump cut or a lateral quickness manner, but just as a fluid athlete. He's also an extremely patient runner. With his ability to gear down and gear up, he understands how to follow his blockers and how to wait behind them. So many times I saw him on a sweep or a pitch where he's got a pulling guard or a pulling tackle. Let the blocks develop. And just from a maturity standpoint, I'm watching him as a true freshman, 2023 film. He was a player that really stood out in the understanding of the game, and then obviously the athleticism that pairs with that to be able to execute from there. His burst, the elements that come from that top end speed, all really, really good. A phenomenal player when it comes to contact balance. He is on the taller side, 6'1", 220, but he still has really, really good contact balance. A bigger frame for sure, and someone that might be a little bit more imposing. You see that larger frame coming through a hole. He did, if kind of looking at some weaknesses, show that he's, once again, not necessarily an effective receiver. Probably another guy that either needs to get more reps or needs to be paired with someone else. He doesn't have a ton of like lateral agility and quickness when he's going from like a standstill. He's not going to make you miss in a phone booth. He's a guy that once he gets moving, that fluid movement is apparent there. But you're not going to see him jump cutting like crazy. You're going to see a guy that understands how and where to run and how small movements can manipulate a player. Not a guy that's going to make a big, massive jump cut and get out of the way of the defender. But CJ Baxter, I think he's probably going to be a guy that I'm a lot higher on, a player that I absolutely love. If he does decide to come out, I expect him to be, up there within the top 3 running backs that are committing this year. And then coming in at number 1, probably no question or no curiosity from anyone, it's Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love is, in my opinion, everything you want from a running back. Maybe a little bit more on the slender side, coming in at 6 feet, 206, but he plays the game like a agile, elusive, athletic back would. So his style of running matches his frame. He does kind of the opposite of what Baxter did, where he can make a guy miss, 9 times out of 10 if you're in a one-on-one. He's extremely good about evading defenders. He had a .38 missed tackle force percentage, which is ridiculous. Anytime you're sniffing .4, that is a number that really, really starts to stick out because, once again, it shows what you can do as a runner. He is a willing blocker. There's a rep that he has where he is blocking 10 yards downfield. He takes a play-action handoff, and it's a design quarterback draw. He goes to the hole. He's 10 yards downfield, and Riley Leonard follows him. He's hands up blocking a safety down there, and just kind of that aspect of his game really sticks out to me. In the pocket does well with pass pro, and he, in kind of the third down sense, is probably the, I don't want to say the best receiving back, but the most refined receiving back. He will line up in the slot. He will do a lot of things that allow Notre Dame to be creative with kind of how they approach him, whether it's screens, swing passes, running him out of the slot on a slant route, kind of anything within there. He's another player also that had 0 fumbles. He's had a limited carry total. He's only carried the ball 234 times, and that's, obviously a good thing. You don't want to fumble the ball, but the 234 over 2 seasons, I would have liked to see him carried a little bit more. Obviously, double-edged sword with tread on the tires. Like 234 times, you're not worn out like you would be if you have been carrying the ball 500, 600, 700 times. But how well can you manage an NFL workload? If you're coming in as the number 1 back, you're expected to be more than just a running back by committee. You're expected to be a true running back for a team that can be an impactful player. And if you're only able to give 10, 12 runs a game, that's kind of on the lighter side, in my opinion. So something where I'd like to see that number increase, but obviously 0 fumbles over that time, something to celebrate. As a blocker, I mentioned his willingness. He does need to clean up some technique elements. It's a coachable thing. He's coming into his junior year, so something where he just needs a little bit more time and a little more understanding with that, in my opinion. One element to his game, because of his shiftiness and elusiveness, he's very, very good about being patient behind the line, but it can also almost be a detriment. At times, he has gotten caught staying behind his blockers too long and not taking advantage of what was there. He also doesn't have the burst through the hole that I would love to see from him. So a player that I think has that athletic profile, but maybe needs to do more to apply it in the right situation. And then finally, his speed is a little bit more build-up than it is quick. I think once he gets in space and he's moving, you're not going to catch him. He's able to break off those long runs. But he does probably have a little bit on the lower end of this group, at least, for some of the quicker guys, the acceleration that would go with that. So that's my top 10. Like I said, a fun group, in my opinion, a group that's, coming from last year, might be looked down upon because it's not last year's running back class, but this is still a very, very good group. Deep throughout, I would feel pretty good about, especially like 1 through 7, and I think the bottom guys have an opportunity to really raise their stock. So, kind of once again going through it: Jeremiah Love at 1, C.J. Baxter at 2, Darius Taylor at 3, Jonah Coleman coming in at 4, Mekhi Hughes 5, Nicholas Singleton 6, his teammate Katron Allen at 7. Justice Haynes at 8, Jaden Ott at 9, and then Jaheim White coming in at number 10. That's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Weekly Huddle. Appreciate you hanging out with us. If you're enjoying the football talk, please hit that subscribe button so you do not miss what is coming up next. As always, you can keep up with the show on YouTube by searching the Weekly Huddle, and you can follow along on Twitter and get updates there at Weekly Huddle. You can find me on Twitter as well at NFL Draft _Weston. If you want to hear more of my takes and scouting notes in between shows. Catch you next time. Thanks.